Episode 56 May 18, 2023. Play the Jeopardy game at https://rossipresidents.wordpress.com/jeopardy-game. Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, CRAWSCpresidents.wordpress.com and scroll down for PDFs of articles with URLs to search on. And on the website are links to 30-minute YouTube videos and Spotify podcasts as well as podcasts on Amazon Music Prime, free for Prime subscribers, podcasts.google.com, Castbox, and Pocket Cast. Pocket Cast is only free on the phone app. Pocket Cast can be played on Apple phones. United States Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. 40% of federal investment in disadvantaged communities affected by climate change. You can send feedback about the tool, submit data sources or ideas for consideration. Screening tool email. Lived experiences have to inform the Biden administration policies. WeJack next meeting June 13, 2023. Sign up for public comment at the meeting by June 6, 2023. Submit written public comments by June 20, 2023. ROSEP View: why not avoid burning wood in the first place, instead of paying to capture the emissions, which is a costly process that has shown no results in success so far. Why continue throwing subsidies at wood burning, first for burning wood itself because of the lie of carbon neutrality, and then with subsidies for carbon capture, which is expensive and doesn't work? Microsoft will pay to capture carbon from burning wood. The Verge. The Verge. Can capturing CO2 from a wood-burning power plant fight climate change? Microsoft thinks so, and just signed an 11-year deal to buy carbon dioxide. Association of Rural Living with COPD-related hospitalizations and deaths in U.S. veterans. Nature. Particulate matter 2.5, PM2.5, was used as a surrogate of ambient air quality, pollution, and was calculated using Environmental Protection Agency. Excerpts edited by ROSEP for brevity and clarity and relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates. Acute exacerbations of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease (ECOPD) related hospitalizations rates are 21% higher among individuals living in rural areas relative to those living in urban areas in United States. The ECOPD-related death rates are also 70% higher in rural living individuals relative to urban living individuals. It is unclear whether the high burden of COPD in rural areas is related to worse outcomes in patients with COPD or is because the prevalence of COPD is higher in rural areas. We assessed the association of rural living with acute exacerbations of COPD, ECOPS, related hospitalization and mortality. In conclusion, rural living was not associated with ECOPD-related hospitalizations after adjusting for demographics and comorbidities. Only after accounting for travel time to the closest VA medical center, isolated rural living was associated with more ECOPD-related hospitalizations, suggesting that other aspects than hospital care may be responsible for the excess of hospitalizations in isolated rural patients, for example, poor access to outpatient care or pulmonary rehabilitation. Rural living was weakly associated with increased long-term mortality, but this association goes away after adjusting for travel time. Future research should focus on innovative ways to address gaps in care of rural patients with COPD. Idaho. New Yorker, May 22, 2023, pages 16 to 17. Excerpts edited by ROSEP for brevity and clarity and relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates. Songwriter Carole King made her case for the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act last week. She has lobbied for the bill periodically for the last few decades. That bill would designate millions of acres in the West as wilderness and put an end to logging in those areas. Representative Carolyn Maloney is the main sponsor of the bill. King has lived in Idaho since 1977. King said the Forest Service is not what people think it is. It's arm in arm with the timber industry. The forest is under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, because they consider trees a crop. She showed Democratic Representative Jamie Raskin photos of national forest that had been clear-cut. Raskin said, "So this is about the timber industry's capture of the Forest Service. I hate to use this phrasing. But it's too late." Massachusetts, Boston, Back Bay. Mystery smoke overnight, Universal Hub. Universal Hub. We were up from 1 to 3 a.m., freaking out over what smelled like wood smoke in our home in Back Bay. I finally established that it was actually outside. Michigan. Wildfire smoke from Canada sweeps into West Michigan, WOODTV.com. WOODTV.com. Grand Rapids, Michigan, wood, skies should be blue today if it weren't for a concentration of elevated wildfire smoke sweeping over West Michigan. Nevada, Reno. Health District Air Quality Management Division announces document drop box. Washoe Life, Washoe County. Stationary source permitting, asbestos programs, wood burning devices, air quality fees and applications, open burning. Additionally, we can answer. New York. 7 things you're banned from burning in your New York bonfire, WIBX 950. WIBX 950. Only charcoal or dry, clean, untreated or unpainted wood can be burned. Fires cannot be left unattended and must be fully extinguished. North Dakota, Bismarck. Look what just rolled into Bismarck/Mandan, wow. Hot975fm.com. And wow, the smells of ashes and wood smoke were thick in so many areas. There were 87 wildland fires burning in Alberta, a quarter of which. Texas, El Paso, Climate Resolution, Proposition K, defeated May 6, 2023, a look at fossil fuel tactics and other opposition tactics. Rosep View, El Paso's climate resolution, although it failed in a vote, may serve as an example of how to organize around an environmental issue. Sunrise El Paso members gathered on July 25, 2022, outside El Paso City Hall after delivering 39,000 signatures to the city clerk in support of adding the climate charter to the ballot. The El Paso Climate Charter failed on May 6, 2023, because not every signatory to the petition turned out to vote. Beto O'Rourke, a former Democratic congressman, gubernatorial candidate and El Paso resident, endorsed the Proposition K in an op-ed on April 29. El Paso has low voter turnout, 32% in November 2022, but Sunrise El Paso was counting on turning out young voters, who are more likely to support action on climate change and had signed the charter petition at high rates. Demographics reported during early voting, from April 24 to May 2, spelled trouble for Prop K, with older voters turning out in much higher numbers than younger El Pasoans. Only 11% of eligible voters turned out and Prop K lost by a wide margin. Out of 49,800 voters, only 9,190, 19%, had voted in favor of Proposition K. https://insightclimatenews.org/news/0905203/El-Paso-Texas-climate-resolution-rejected. Climate resolution voted down in El Paso after fossil fuel interests and other opponents pour more than $1 million into opposition. Sunrise El Paso's grassroots campaign was not enough to overcome the influence of a monopoly utility and fossil fuel companies at the ballot box. May 9, 2023. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. Voters in El Paso resoundingly rejected a ballot proposition that would have set the city on the path to 100% renewable energy and explored municipalization of the local electric utility. Sunrise Tactic 1. Right Proposition K. Sunrise El Paso drafted the Climate Charter, Proposition K, with a goal of 80% clean, renewable energy in El Paso by 2030 and 100% by 2045, and a requirement that El Paso to convert El Paso Electric from private to municipal ownership. El Paso, a city of 700,000 people in the northern Chihuahuan Desert, is threatened by extreme heat and water scarcity as the climate changes. After collecting 39,000 signatures during the spring of 2022, Sunrise El Paso submitted the proposition to the city of El Paso, and it was added to the ballot in early 2023. The vote ended May 6, 2023. A 2. Sunrise Tactic 2. Grassroots organization. The National Sunrise Movement also contributed to the Sunrise El Paso Climate Charter campaign. Sunrise El Paso bet on a grassroots, people-powered campaign. A 3. Sunrise Tactic 3, Ground Game Texas partner. The grassroots petition-based model that Ground Game Texas relies on has had some success in smaller Texas cities. Ground Game Texas also formed a PAC and reported $41,000 in contributions and received an additional $3,100 for the campaign in small donations from 78 residents of El Paso. A 4. Sunrise Tactic 4, turn petition signers out to vote. Why the number of petitioners exceeded the voters for Proposition K, we would door knock, and the first thing people would say is, "You want to take my gas stove," a Sunrise organizer said. A Sunrise organizer said many of the young people who signed the petition may not be identified in databases of likely voters that the group relied on for door knocking and other get-out-the-vote strategies. He said younger voters are also more likely to rent without a permanent address, instead of owning their homes. A 5. Sunrise Tactic 5, introduce climate as an issue in Texas. The campaign pushed conversations of climate change that had been stagnant in the border city. When will we transition to solar? What is the better plan, if not this one? We're really proud of provoking that conversation and sparking it. B1, Fossil Fuel et al. Tactic 1, misinformation and fearmongering about banning gas stoves in El Paso. Some opponents of the climate charter falsely stated the measure would ban gas stoves in El Paso. We would really have to break it down, a Sunrise organizer said about that opposition tactic. It was an eye-opening experience for the group to see just how easily that misinformation contained everything. B2, Fossil Fuel et al. Tactic 2, statewide fossil fuel incentive, statewide stifling of renewable energy projects, and statewide bills against local climate legislation. Texas state lawmakers in Austin advanced legislation that would create new incentives to build natural gas power plants and stifle renewable energy projects. The Texas legislature moves to limit the ability of municipalities to craft their own climate policies. House Bill 2127, which has been voted out of committee, would prohibit cities and counties from passing regulations that exceed state laws in areas including labor, agriculture, and natural resources. A bill restricting future climate charters, House Bill 4930, and its Senate counterpart, have both passed out of committee. B3, Fossil Fuel et al. Tactic 3, implication that Sunrise was an outside interest. Opponents of Proposition K said that it was pushed by outside interest groups and the vote indicates the will of El Pasoans. B4, Fossil Fuel et al. Tactic 4, implication that climate change was not real, and fighting it was a swindle. The CEO of the El Paso Chamber of Commerce said our communities are not as easily swindled as Sunrise had hoped. Fighting climate change by using clean, renewable energy was marketed by the Chamber of Commerce as a swindle. Doesn't the Chamber of Commerce encourage tourism? Is the Chamber of Commerce's goal to keep El Paso polluted? That would seem to defeat the purpose of promoting El Paso for tourism. B5, Fossil Fuel et al. Tactic 5, implication that the climate resolution would cost billions. The Chamber of Commerce commissioned a study by Points Consulting of Moscow, Idaho, that found the charter would cost El Paso billions of dollars and kill nearly half the city's jobs. Energy economists from the University of Texas, Austin debunked these claims, which they said overlooked the benefits of a transition to renewables and were based on faulty assumptions. B5, Fossil Fuel et al. Tactic 5, money from political action committees used for mailers, billboards, and television ads that blanketed El Paso in the weeks leading up to the vote. The Chamber of Commerce backed the B51 PAC, El Pasoans for Prosperity PAC, which reported $200,000 in donations from El Paso Electric and another $150,000 from Marathon Petroleum, an Ohio-based company that owns an oil refinery in El Paso. B52 PAC, the Consumer Energy Alliance formed an eponymous PAC and contributed $548,250. CEA, the public-facing side of HBW Resources, a Houston-based lobbying firm, includes Shell USA and Occidental Petroleum Corporation among its members. According to an interview with a local business journal, CEA's Southwest director lived for a month in a downtown El Paso hotel while leading the organization's campaign against Proposition K. B53 PAC, Americans for Prosperity / the Libra Initiative formed a third PAC. Americans for Prosperity is a libertarian conservative political advocacy group funded by the Koch brothers. In summary, opponents and these three PACs spent more than $1 million to defeat Proposition K, including $500,000 from Consumer Energy Alliance, CEA, which represents fossil fuel and energy companies. The opposition also included the El Paso Chamber of Commerce, El Paso Electric, and Marathon Petroleum. https://www.newyorktimes.com/2023/05/16/politics/Biden-Manchin-Inflation-Reduction-Act.html. Manchin clashes with Biden administration over climate law. Senator Joe Manchin III, the conservative West Virginia Democrat who faces re-election next year and is flirting with a presidential run, has threatened to repeal the measure he helped write. Senator Joe Manchin III, Democrat of West Virginia, has professed frustration and dismay at what he calls the radical climate agenda that he says is driving the Biden administration's rollout of the law. Credit, Kenny Holston / The New York Times. May 16, 2023. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. Ever since Senator Joe Manchin III, the conservative West Virginia Democrat, cast the crucial vote last year for the Inflation Reduction Act, delivering President Biden his biggest legislative victory to date, the bill has weighed him down politically. Mr. Manchin's poll numbers in his solidly Republican and coal-rich state dropped last year after he played a critical role in writing the climate, health, and tax legislation. He has since worked to rebrand the pro-environment law, telling voters it would not only combat climate change but also ensure fossil fuel production in the United States. Mr. Manchin went on Fox News last month and threatened to try to reverse the legislation. "I will vote to repeal my own bill," he said, making common cause with Republicans who have demanded the reversal of several of its provisions in exchange for raising the debt limit. Mr. Manchin, who has a personal financial interest in the coal industry, also vowed last week to block all Environmental Protection Agency nominees over a proposal to target power plant emissions. "We're not going to let them get away with it," he said last week. "We're going to shut everything down. To be the leader of the free world, you've got to lead," Mr. Manchin told the donors, according to audio of the call obtained by Puck News. People close to him see another motivation, too. If Mr. Manchin feels he is being effective on Capitol Hill and listened to by his party, he is more likely to run for re-election. If he feels frustrated with his party and miserable in the Senate, he is more likely to explore other options, they say. The National Republican Senatorial Committee recently released an ad highlighting Mr. Manchin's vow to repeal his own bill. Canada, Alberta. Wildfire smoke poses health risks in Fort Macleod and District. Fort Macleod Gazette. Smoke from the 87 wildfires in Alberta raised the air, burning incense and candles, frying foods, using wood stoves, and vacuuming. Cochrane's air quality at dangerous level. Cochrane now. According to IQ-Air, on Wednesday morning at 6:30 a.m., the particulate matter, PM 2.5, was 173. The air quality in Cochrane is currently 19.7. Wildfires made Calgary the most polluted city on Earth. Here's how air pollution harms our health. Toronto Star. Wildfire smoke is especially dense with particulates, and is responsible for roughly 20% of Canada's annual PM 2.5 emissions, said Michael. Airdrie's air quality hit dangerous levels. DiscoverAirdrie.com. Discover Airdrie. According to IQ-Air, at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, the particulate matter, PM 2.5, was 178.2, which is deemed very unhealthy, the highest recorded. Alberta air quality among worst in the world due to wildfire smoke. Yahoo News Canada. As of Tuesday afternoon, Calgary's readings were nearly 500 micrograms per cubic meter, PM 2.5, an extremely hazardous air quality reading that was more than 40 times. Alberta wildfire smoke could make for hazy skies in southwestern Ontario, CBC News. CBC. The network monitors levels of ozone, nitrogen dioxide, and PM 2.5, which is small particulate matter that affects air quality, is smaller than Canada, Alberta, Calgary. Wildfire smoke descends on Calgary, air quality index at very high risk. CBC News. CBC. An orange haze due to wildfire smoke sits over downtown Calgary on, said smoke from burning wood is made of tiny particles that people can. Canada, British Columbia, Vancouver, seasonal prohibition on indoor wood burning. View. Unfortunately, steps are not being taken to replace indoor wood burning when it is the sole source of heat, with clean residential heating appliances such as heat pumps that work at temperatures down to 40 below 0 Fahrenheit. The seasonal prohibition does not apply when wood burning is the only source of heat in a residence, during an emergency, and for those living off-grid in rural parts of the region. That is a large loophole that directly affects the health and lives of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. Seasonal residential indoor wood burning prohibition in effect May 15. Indo-Canadian Voice. Residential wood smoke is the most significant source of fine particulate matter emissions in the region, contributing more than a quarter of the Metro Vancouver's annual seasonal prohibition on the use of indoor wood burning appliances, such as wood stoves and fireplaces, begins on May 15 and lasts until September 15. The seasonal prohibition is meant to protect the public from the effects of wood smoke during a time when indoor heating is used less frequently. The seasonal prohibition does not apply when wood burning is the only source of heat in a residence, during an emergency, and for those living off-grid in rural parts of the region. The Residential Indoor Wood Burning Emission Regulation Bylaw aims to reduce emissions from indoor wood burning appliances through the use of best burning practices and lower-emitting wood burning appliances. Those using wood burning appliances are required to declare their use of best burning practices and register their appliances located within Metro Vancouver's urban containment boundary. Residential wood smoke is the most significant source of fine particulate matter emissions in the region, contributing more than a quarter of the annual total fine particulate matter emissions. When breathed in, the particles penetrate deep into a person's lungs and bloodstream and can be harmful to health, particularly for infants, the elderly, and people with diabetes, lung disease, or heart disease. Residents can now receive increased rebates for trading in their old, uncertified wood-burning appliance for a new low-emission appliance, through Metro Vancouver's Community Wood Smoke Reduction Program. Rebates from Metro Vancouver can be combined with provincial Clean BC incentives, where applicable. Metro Vancouver operates an extensive air quality monitoring network with 31 permanent stations and 1 mobile unit. The regional district sets air quality objectives, responds to air quality complaints, and enforces bylaws pertaining to air emissions from industry, businesses, and residences. Residents can monitor regional air quality using AirMap. Canada, Saskatchewan, Estevan. Heavy smoke billows into the southeast, air quality health index at very high risk. DiscoverEstevan.com. Extreme PM 2.5 concentrations and associated AQHI values of 10 plus or very high risk are occurring. A cold front moving southwards through southern Canada, Manitoba, Winnipeg. Cause of Manitoba bridge fires, determined CTV News Winnipeg. CTV News Winnipeg. And the black smoke coming from the wood burning was incredibly dense and scary going across the bridge. Another bridge in the area, on Municipal. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A fire that badly damaged 2 bridges and prompted a highway closure in southern Manitoba has been deemed accidental in nature, according to the Office of the Fire Commissioner, OFC. A fire that started in a nearby field had spread to the bridge, which stretches over the Manning Canal. Images and video from the scene showed the bridge engulfed in flames, along with heavy smoke billowing into the sky. On Tuesday, the OFC announced its investigation has concluded and determined the fire was an accident. The OFC is reminding Manitobans not to leave fires burning unattended and to check with municipalities if burning restrictions are in place. Canada, Ontario, Gananoque. May is Asthma Awareness Month, Gananoque Reporter. Gananoque Reporter. Outdoor irritants include air pollution, example, vehicles, factories, cold air, hot, humid weather, and smoke from wood burning, bonfires, etc. Brazil. https://news.mongabay.com/2023/056-and-head-war-read-chief-shot-and-dash-palm-oil-war-region-crisis-group-launch/question mark Indigenous chief shot and head in Brazil's palm oil war region, crisis group launched. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. We want to protect the forest and save our lives. Save the lives of our warriors, our leaders, our caciques, our children, who are at risk, he said in a May 15 video, adding that there is no standing tree if we are not alive and we want to save our lives too. Parrot Temb recalled decades of assassinations of Indigenous, Quilambala and riverbank leaders without anyone being arrested. We denounce it to everyone and nobody does anything. They are only sensitive when there is an assassination attempt or someone dies. Recalling the details of the crime, he said his father survived by some miracle. We are praying and we continue praying that he survives the surgery. Tupa, the supreme god in indigenous Tupi language, will help us. We didn't even have time to cry, he said in tears. We need protection. United Kingdom. UK, London. Computer simulation measures population exposure to air pollution in London. Air quality news. Maps pollution fields and measures exposure levels across age groups based on an averaged level of PM 2.5 at the population's home address. London's other pollution problem, wood burners. Centre for London. The article writer explores wood-burning stoves' contribution to London's air pollution and why a ban is not a simple solution. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. Wood burning emits small particles named particulate matter, PM. These toxic particles can be responsible for many respiratory problems and other illnesses, including dementia. Domestic wood-burning stoves are believed to cause £1 billion a year of health costs. Alongside cars, there's another unlikely source of pollution in London, wood burners. In the last decade, air pollution from wood burning has doubled across the UK. While other sources of pollution have fallen and are expected to fall further, domestic wood-burning stoves have become one of the main contributors of air pollution in London. Domestic wood-burning stoves are believed to cause £1 billion a year of health costs. Vulnerable groups, including children and older Londoners, are particularly at risk when exposed to high levels of air pollution. They are in effect banned in new homes. But what can be done about stoves in existing homes? Census data reveals that only 400 households in London said wood is their only heating source. For most people in London, the choice to use a wood burner is an aesthetic choice. How can we reduce emissions from wood burners in London? We might start by raising people's awareness of the negative impacts of wood burners. In 2018, the GLA spent £20,000 on an information campaign to encourage people to switch to a less polluting, eco-design wood-burning stove. But is this enough to reduce the air pollution, given these stoves still produce 450 times more pollution than gas heating? Most Londoners support a complete ban on domestic wood burners. But even if a ban were to be introduced, how would it be enforced? People already face a £300 fine for disregarding local rules banning people from burning wood at home. But English councils have issued only 17 fines over the past 6 years, a very low figure in comparison with the number of complaints. Governments say that local authorities need to be enforcing the rules better, but local authorities say that they don't have the resources for this. We'd like to organize a roundtable to discuss how we can reduce the use of domestic wood burners in London. If this is something you'd be interested in taking part in or are able to support, please get in touch with us. India, Delhi. Bans to monitor bad air at 13 pollution hotspots in Delhi. Hindustan Times. Hindustan Times. Seasonal data presented during the conference showed that secondary inorganic aerosols accounted for 33% of Delhi's total PM2.5 pollution load. India. Dense cloud of dust engulfs city as storm sweeps NCR, visibility drops. Gurgaon News. Times of India. The CPCB's current annual average safe limits for PM2.5 and PM10 are 40. Dust particles, especially fine particulate matter such as PM10. World Hypertension Day, how to control your blood pressure. India Today. India Today. When PM2.5 levels are high, people report high blood pressure as well. Photo courtesy, Getty Images. Hypertension usually is asymptomatic or